that one of the other ways God speaks, especially in modern times, is through dreams. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yes. To understand dreams, we have to differentiate between the conscious man and the subconscious man. In the book of Job, chapter 33, maybe verse 15, where he says, in the middle of the night, God instructs. And David reflects on the same thing in the book of Psalms. So there is written record that God speaks through dreams. Now, what are dreams? There are three different kinds of dreams according to the Bible. The wise man in the book of Ecclesiastes says that dreams comes from a multitude of thoughts or activity. The more you think about certain things, you're most likely to dream about it. And while you're on that topic, I hear a lot of times people telling me, like a woman will come to me and say, hey, brother, I need advice. I'm talking to this brother and I need to pray to God to help me know if this is my man. Or a man will come and say, I'm talking to this woman. And I'll be like, have you prayed? They will tell me, yeah, I've prayed and I've even had dreams. God is telling me she's the one. I don't believe that, because the Bible tells you if you're thinking so much about something, dreams will come from there too, because they are taking place when you are asleep. That's the subconscious person. And when you wake up, they transmit back to your consciousness and you can tell people what you dreamt about. Not every dream is from God. So you can make dreams for yourself by just worrying, thinking so much about things. And then there are also dreams that Satan can inspire. And the Bible bears record of that. In the book of Jeremiah, he speaks about it. And he tells the nation, don't listen to the dreams that those people come and give. I'm not the one who sent them. And then there is the third kind of dreams. These are dreams that are from God. From the book of Genesis, there is record of God speaking to people through dreams. So dreams are a channel through which God can speak to his children. And 1 Corinthians chapter 12, I believe, speaks about dreams also as a gift. And the book of Joel also says, in the end time, people will have dreams.
Your old men
shall have dreams. So the Bible is giving us here a blueprint that you can have dreams from God. God can speak to you through dreams. Now, an example I used last time was the example of Joseph. Mary has found favor in the sight of God. She's espoused to Joseph, and now she's pregnant with Jesus. Joseph turns around and says, no, I don't want this. But God understands this man is in a tough situation. God spoke to Mary. The right thing for God to do is to go speak to Joseph. Now, God spoke to Mary using an angelic visit. He goes to Joseph. He speaks to him in a dream. Don't put her away. What she's carrying is holy. So that settles that question in Joseph's heart. That message was very clear. But some dreams are not always clear. The Bible tells us in the book of Genesis of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, when Joseph was in prison, he had a dream that it was symbolic. So not every dream is clear. Some dreams are just symbols. God is speaking to you in a way that he wants to reveal something to you, but you need to come back to him to get more details. Because a dream from God, only God can interpret it. A man cannot interpret it for you. I was once in a library and I saw a book about interpretation of dreams and symbols and everything. You cannot tell me that you've possibly conceived all the ways what a symbol could mean. Only God can interpret what he's saying symbolically. And Joseph had a gift of interpreting dreams. Another man that we see like that is Daniel. The king has a dream. He doesn't understand it. And Daniel comes to his rescue and he gives him the explanation of the dream. So some dreams are clear, but some dreams are symbolic. So when you have a dream, be careful. It may not be what you saw, but it could be something behind what you saw. So pray to God to help you understand what it means.
And dreams are so important. These are things that at times we often neglect. You had a dream. Sometimes you wake up and you just say, oh, I had a bad dream or I had a good dream. But we so often pass these things up as though they're not important. But as you've mentioned with the example of Joseph, dreams at times are what forms destiny. Lives can be saved or destroyed through dreams. And I want us to take the approach of, when we think about dreams, let's think about them more than just something that happened in the night. This could be a way in which God is trying to speak to you. In the example of Pharaoh and Joseph, Had Pharaoh not brought that dream to the people around him, that entire nation of Egypt and many others around him would have been destroyed. Because the dream that was sent to Pharaoh was to save Egypt, but also to save Jacob's and his family as well. Because the lineage of Israel needed to continue. But their survival depended on the dream that Pharaoh had being interpreted by Joseph. So that dream was very important. Not only the dream, but the interpretation of the dream. Because the dream was one part. But if he just had the dream alone, as we saw, it didn't make sense to him. His magicians, his wise men, they didn't understand the dream. Joseph needed to interpret the dream for him. When he interprets the dream, we find out that this dream is actually more important than it seems. So at times we have to ask ourselves, we've had many dreams. Everybody dreams. So not everybody remembers their dreams, but everybody dreams. For the audience and even for ourselves, we have to ask ourselves, how many dreams have we had where God could have been speaking to us, but we simply neglected those dreams?
Our lifestyles are part of the problem. It's hard to have meaningful dreams these days when we are so consumed by technology, to the point that right before we close our eyes, the last thing we are watching are our phones. We are seeing things on our phones. So those things are engraved in our conscious, and sometimes they are transferred in our subconscious. When we were kids, I remember if you watched a scary movie, you'll be scared of going to bed and sleep. Because sometimes what you saw on TV might come and manifest itself in a dream. That doesn't change because you grew up. It's just the fear of it goes away. But your mind can still capture that input and manipulate it and then play it back to you when you sleep. So be careful. Watch your routines. As a child of God, you have to be very careful what you open your mind to. If you have a gift, dreams are gifts. Some people are gifted with dreams, literally. They can have dreams and they tell you the dream. The next day the dream is fulfilled. Some people are gifted like that. And then there are some people, they say, I don't remember my dreams. But the once in a while when they remember their dreams, God is speaking to them. If you know that God can speak to you through dreams, be careful with how you spend your time, because our brains are, whatever you feed to it is whatever it will give you back. So if you want God to speak to you, meditate on his word. He told Joshua, meditate on the word day and night. But we are not meditating on the word of God, and then we want to have meaningful dreams. It's practically impossible.
Yeah. You just actually helped me understand something better. There's something you just said a few minutes ago, and there's a saying that many of us know, the eyes are the windows to the soul. But I've always looked at it as just that, the eyes are the windows to the soul. But right now I just understood that the eyes, not just the eyes, the ears, the senses that we have that take in information also create a pathway into your subconscious. And whatever you see, whatever you're watching, whatever you're listening to, you may just be seeing things. You may just be watching a movie. You may just be watching a video, listening to a song, listening to words, but you're actually creating a pathway of these things into your subconscious.
Yes.
Now, what's going to happen when they enter your subconscious? These are things you could end up dreaming about. Unknowingly, you may make decisions because of these things that were taken into your subconscious. And that's why for a child of God, it's very important, as you said, to be careful about what you're watching,
yes,
what you're listening to. The eyes and the ears are very important because they can create gates for things. What I'm about to say may be a little bit more than what people are used to, but these could be gates for spirits to enter into your spirit.
I have a personal testimony about that. I used to play video games a lot. And one of the games I used to play a lot was Call of Duty or Uncharted. What would happen is I started to notice that pretty much every night after playing those video games, I spend the night fighting. Sometimes I'm even kicking my legs and my feet in bed. Luckily for me, I have my own room and my own bed. But if I had someone sleeping next to me in my bed, I would have probably punched them one night. My body is now acting out from these video games. And I'm constantly fighting things. Later on, I took some time to discern and I realized, I'm just acting out the characters in the video games that I'm playing. So I stopped playing the video games. Guess what? Those dreams stopped. And since then, I realized that, whatever I feed to my mind, it will feed it back to me in one or another. Maybe I'm special. Maybe I'm the exception, but some people are normal. They can play them and not have those experiences. But for me, the more I played them, that became my reality. And that's why I decided to stop playing those video games.
No, I don't think it's just you. I think it's natural. When you study psychology, you understand that a lot of the behaviors that people show and display a result of what they took in without realizing. There's a lot of things that are happening. Even right now, we're taking in a lot of information. There's a lot of cues, a lot of things happening. As we mentioned in one of the previous conversations we had, there is so much information out there, and you're obtaining and you're taking in, processing a lot of information. But how are you filtering that information? The things you're watching, the things you're listening to, you may not even mean to have listened to these things. You maybe were just passing by a street and you heard words, you heard conversations that just were not good for you. So as a child of God, it's very important to have a filter of what it is you're taking in. Because again, we're speaking about how does God speak? God speaks, but there's also so many other voices that are also speaking. If you've enjoyed this content and the previous content, just go ahead and like the video, subscribe, turn on the notifications. This is what helps us know that our listeners are engaged. This content is good, beneficial, so we can continue to produce this content. Thank you again and have a great day.